Investors are still having their eyes this morning on the AI, internet, and tech sectors, and that's really going to be the story for the week. Palantir reporting second quarter earnings after the bell today, followed by AMD and Supermicro tomorrow. You've got Uber, Alibaba, Lyft, DoorDash, Airbnb, and DraftKings coming out on Wednesday, and then Microchip Technology comes out Thursday. But one of those companies coming out with some preemptive news ahead of the earnings report, it is Lyft. They announced today that they're going to partner with Chinese tech giant Baidu to deploy the company's Apollo Go autonomous vehicles in Europe starting next year. The initial deployments are planned for Germany and the UK pending regulatory approval. Lyft is up by about 4.5%, Baidu up by 1.25%. Joining me now, Evercore ISI head of internet research, Mark Mahaney. Mark, one of the many stocks that you follow, and we're going to get to several of them, is Lyft. So what do you make of this new partnership? And in particular, in the earnings report, do you foresee, because we're in the middle of trade negotiations with China, do you see any hiccups between any tie-up between Lyft and Baidu, since we've got this other global story happening as a backdrop?
Yeah, well, I like the way you set up the question. Where's the partnership taking place in Europe? I think it's going to be very hard for a Chinese AV company to do a tie-up with Uber or Lyft or to run independently in the U.S. So that's the backdrop. These kind of deals are good for Uber and Lyft. Now, it'll all come down to how well they can execute on them. Right so far, there's a really good track record with Uber that's rolled out Waymo in 2 cities, Austin and in Atlanta, and has done a very good job. It's turbocharged the launch of Waymo in those 2 markets. Whether it will continue to do that in other markets, we'll find out. It's interesting. There's not yet a major partner that's rolled out with Lyft. It's going to be harder for Lyft. They can't offer the kind of huge demand capture that Uber can. So if you're an autonomous vehicle company, you want to partner up with somebody with a lot of demand, that's probably going to be Uber.
Yeah, well, and certainly Uber is I'm assuming that, well, I do know that they've got more market share in Europe versus Lyft. But again, we'll see if they can give us more color about the European deal on the earnings. I want to ask you about this because we've got a lot of numbers coming out. We've got big consumer names. Disney's coming out this week, and you've got Caterpillar as well. But there's a consumer backstory I want to ask you about, because McKinsey ConsumerWise did this sentiment survey. This was between April and May of this year. And it talked about what consumers are worried about. And this really ties into Disney, which is coming up this week, but some others, is that they talked about rising prices, inflation. 43% of consumers are worried about it. Tariff policies, 29%. Ability to make ends meet, 22%. That's the consumer side of this. So do you think that kind of story is going to be a backdrop in some of these reports and calls that we're going to get with these companies?
Well, I don't think it will. I mean, it won't be this quarter. If it was going to be a story, you would have heard it from Amazon, Meta, or Google. Those 3 companies have enormous views into the economy, but they're all, especially Amazon, is sort of so far so good. The question is, what happens in the back half of the year as the tariffs get implemented? I mean, their costs are rising. Somebody's going to be eating these. Now, whether it's the companies or it's consumers or it's some sort of combination of the 2, that could start changing things. And the materiality is still unknown. But so far, in these prints that we've heard this season, you wouldn't know that there was any tariff battle going on, tariff war going on, or tariffs about to be implemented or are being implemented. You wouldn't have heard it. And you have yet to see real signs of consumer softness, except for some areas like travel. That could change in the back half of the year, but I haven't heard it in the report so far, and I don't think we're here this week.
That's why I'm thinking about the parks division at Disney, which I'm going to be watching when those numbers cross. Okay, so you mentioned Amazon. So we got Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. And I mentioned this ahead of you joining us, that in your Amazon report, you highlighted Alexa Plus. You said that was the game changer. Why?
Well, I want to be careful here. The real game changer on Amazon stock has got to be AWS, their cloud computing business. If that doesn't re-accelerate, if that doesn't accelerate from here, I think there's a real limit to Amazon stock. Alexa Plus, to me, is kind of what I call an amplification catalyst. So you have your core catalyst. You got to get that cloud revenue accelerating, like it did with Google, like it did with Microsoft Azure's business and Microsoft's Azure business. But now you've got these other amplification catalysts. There's a couple of things that I think are underneath the radar for people on Amazon that shouldn't be, that we should be spending more time on. One is Alexa Plus, one is Kuiper, their kind of Starlink competitor. Then there's Amazon and groceries and Amazon and pharmacy. And then there's also this robotics business. I think they could turn into an external business. So I think there's 3, 4, 5 of these extra catalyst. And I just happen to turn my attention to Alexa Plus just because the Mahaney household has been experimenting with this for a couple of weeks. And look, it's a materially better service than what they had before. And we're all looking for that AI assistant. And I kind of put this down as it's not a nerdy AI assistant. It's a friendly, functional AI assistant. It's that voice you can turn to say, hey, I need a restaurant reservation Thursday night, date night with my wife, 2 people, Italian restaurant close by. What do you got? Like, it can have that kind of information, informal conversational experience with you. And I think that there's a real market for kind of commonplace devices that'll do simple tasks for you. They're not going to give you the history of the Smoot-Hawley tariff, but they'll help you get a reservation for dinner, or they'll order you an Uber, the basic tasks, or help you turn on your lights. I think Amazon's got a real play here that's underappreciated.
I've actually asked ChatGPT about Smoot-Hawley, but that's another conversation. Let's get back to this. You kind of led me into my next question with you, so thank you. And it's about AI and tech. There's this piece in the Wall Street Journal. The picture alone with Mark Zuckerberg and the glasses on is gold. But he basically says that the title is Mark Zuckerberg declared war on the iPhone. But it talks about how he painted this vision about AI, and that this is going to be the post-smartphone world. Obviously, he doesn't mention Apple, but he's taken a straight shot at Apple. And then remember that his whole big thing is VR goggles, glasses, that those are going to be able to really be your AI assistant. They're going to be on your face. I would push back and say everybody wants to walk around with goggles on their heads. That's just me. But he talks about the $100 million pay packages that Zuckerberg is also offering, which is unbelievable right now. Your thoughts?
Well, you and I are in the wrong industry, I think, is what I'm picking up. I've never seen that kind of pay package. Good for those people. I'm sure they're adding the value. I'm not undermining those pay packages at all. What I will focus on, I don't know if Zuckerberg's right about what device is going to bring AI, make it popular. I think smartphones have a huge advantage, a head start, so it's kind of hard to see them losing that, but it's possible. Glasses, maybe. But I don't think so, but it's possible. And then I'm struck by these smart home devices. And I think what's really going to happen is in the future, you probably don't want to just have one device. You don't want to carry your phone around with you all the time, nor do you want to wear your glasses all the time. And sometimes you're going to like being able to use your smartphone and have it do or get information or use AI-driven applications on it. Sometimes you want your smart home, like when you're in your kitchen. You don't want to be carrying around your phone in your kitchen. Like, I think there'll be a couple of different use cases for these devices. Zuckerberg's completely right, at least I agree with him, that you're going to see more and more integration of Gen AI into our apps and into our devices. I just don't think there's going to be one dominant device. And if there is, I don't think it's going to be glasses. My guess is it'd be smartphones.
Well, he loves his glasses, I'll tell you that. It's a great piece. Mark Mahaney, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.